gotta pick up your mom and get going.
Yeah, right.
You look a little pale. Are you okay?
Yeah, I don't know, Doc. I mean, it's just this whole thing with my mother.
What?
I just don't know if I can go through with it. Hitting on her.
Nobody said anything about hitting her. You're just gonna take a few liberties with her.
See, that's what I mean. I mean, God, can't believe I'm actually gonna feel up my own mother. You know, this is the kind of thing that could screw me up permanently. Well, what if I go back to the future and I end up being gay?
Why shouldn't you be happy?
First one's really overloaded. Second and third have some. But yeah, Back to the Future just is really the complete retelling of the Egyptian Osirian cycle from start to finish.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica show. This week we're going to be talking with former guest Robert W. Sullivan IV. Sully. But first, Graham, don't say it's not a synchronicity Dunlop. How's it going, buddy?
Hey man, not doing bad in the sweat lodge.
Yeah, how was babysitting?
Our studio turned into from an igloo to a sweat lodge.
Yeah, that's fucked up how that happened, eh? $1 million to one shot, Doc.
Actually, it's not bad right now with the furnace off, but we are covered in stuff all over the walls, and it's pretty hot in here.
Like in a fort. It's like a fort.
Yeah, it's like a fort from when we were little kids.
A lot like a fort. A shitty fort.
So,
anyway, how you been?
Good. Yeah, good.
Christmas is coming.
Very fast.
Fast and hard.
Yeah, we got to solidify the rest of our guests for December.
Who do we got coming up?
We got
Alex DeCaris coming up. We got Randall Carlson again, of course, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be good. And then it'll be the holiday season. 18 months. I think actually we're right around, I think December 1st was our 18th month anniversary.
Oh, yeah?
Is that an anniversary?
No,
18 months?
Yeah.
Is it?
Sure. It's a year and a half, right?
That's like a high school anniversary.
It should be. It's a good way to put it. It seems longer than that, though. I thought we were at 18 months already, no?
No, well, we started, we're calling it June 1st, fucking 20.
No, it was May 30th.
It was like May 24th.
Oh, yeah, right, okay. Yeah.
But we called it June 1st because it's just easier.
Yeah.
So June 1st to June, July, August, September, October, November, December.
You can count. Good for you.
Fuck you. Anyway, yeah, 18 months. Oof. Time flies. I suppose it's time to shut her down, really. I've learned everything I need to learn.
Yeah, not even close, man. It just gets, the hole gets bigger and deeper, and
it would be a better way to say that. Anyway, we got a money bomb winner. Should we start with that?
Yeah.
You got some other shit you want to go do?
I got lots of stuff, but we can start with the money bomb. Yeah.
Start with the money bomb?
Sure.
Winner is Anthony Vincente.
Yeah.
Tony?
Yeah, $100, right? $100?
Yeah, we got exactly $200 on the wire. All subscribers.
So we're giving 50 of that back to...
We did get what?
Anthony. So we're giving 50% of that back to Anthony. 50-50.
Yeah, I shot him an email, so he gets 100. We did get 3 new subscribers, so that was a good month for that. But no off the cuff. The month before we had a lot of a couple of big ones. Not big ones, but extra donations, I suppose. In November, we got new subscribers, but that was it. But actually, well, John Cusimo is pretty much a subscriber, I suppose. We got a few people that don't subscribe but donate every month. Speaking of which, we have a new way to support the show. Motherfucker, I don't think I can remember the URL. Oh, yeah, castbacker.com/Grimerica. Is a new way, PayPal free. We did get some people before that were hesitant of subscribing because they don't like PayPal. So now all you need is a credit card or Visa debit or something like that. Go to castbacker.com/Grimerica and you can subscribe there. I think it's $4.95 a month there. They take less than PayPal.
Yeah, we're on there, /Grimerica. Yeah, looks good.
I designed that myself.
Oh, did you?
Ish.
Yeah, it's kind of matches the website a little bit. Cool.
That's what I was going for, motherfucker.
Right on. So yeah, you don't have a list of all the people that were part of that Money Bum, do you, that we could read out?
Well, you had it.
Well, it's on the hat now.
Where's the hat?
It's right here. Your purple hat.
Here, give me a handful. We have Joel. You ever follow behind already? Mark. Thank you, Mark and Joel. Take Back the Farm. Lane. Thanks, Lane. You spelt it wrong. Dave Z.
Paul N. Nikki B.
Zed. Dave Z in Canada, I guess.
Jeff D.
Daniel. I'm out.
Charity. Carol B. John C. Todd J. Marco. Pat O. Wayne D. And Anthony V, the winner.
Anthony V.
Yeah.
Congratulations, buddy.
And Justin's in there too.
Destino.
So thanks for all your subscriptions. It really helps pay our expenses here. No ads at all. I wanted to push that. Like, I was thinking about that the other day, because when you listen to something like Coast to Coast or the Paracast, there's like ads every fucking 10 minutes. This is like, you can listen to like a 1, 2, or 3 hour chat with our guests with no interruptions, no ad, no corporate sponsorships. It's all value for value. And really, it's an expense, and the only way we can pay for those expenses is with your help. So thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. So it does seem like the subscriber rate is going up, which is encouraging. It's good to see people give $5. Speaking of which,
Profound UFO quote of the week.
I love that jingle. So it's time for the profound UFO quote of the week, I guess. It's a good one. Are you ready?
yeah,
Okay, we had many adventures flying under primitive conditions in the frozen north, but none compared with this. I looked back and saw something that didn't make sense. It was like nothing like flying machines of that period. It was hexagonal, flat, and seemingly made of aluminum or some other metal, with no breaks in the surface and no rivets. At the same time, I had a spooky feeling. I can't explain it. It was as if I felt the presence of whoever was inside that craft, and the feeling was hostile. That's from Lieutenant Colonel Peter Grunnet, the Royal Danish Air Force, describing incident in HE-8 seaplane over Greenland in 1932.
Greenland,
1932.
Greenland,
1932.
Greenland.
Greenland.
I like it, buddy.
Yeah, that's a good one, eh?
Well done. Well done.
Yeah. Colonel Peter Grunnet in 1932, seeing silver hexagonal-shaped flying discs.
In Greenland,
Just probably full of ice, I think.
not for long. Not with global warming.
Oh, we'll get into that one of these episodes.
Yeah, we haven't done global warming in a while. Global cooling, motherfucker. Actually, it's supposed to be warm next week, so I won't complain.
Aren't we going to try and do an episode on the cold truth?
The cold truth with who? Is that one we just got today?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Well, Casey is the guy who was just on Coast to Coast, but it sounds like he's got somebody helping him out with marketing and all, which is who we got the message from.
Booth Media.
No, I don't think it was, man.
No?
No.
Yes, it was. No? Absolutely, it was.
Tom Luongo was the guy.
Tom Luongo?
Yeah. So anyways, I've got some feedback and wrapped into a couple stories and a synchronicity. You want to hear the synchronicity first, or do you want to start on this? I want to start this new segment out.
What new segment?
About psychedelic experiences. I don't know what to call it. I was thinking of something like psychedelic enlightenment or something like that. But some people have bad trips too that aren't necessarily enlightening until maybe later on when they realize that something positive came out of it. And I want to make sure that we're clear, like we don't advocate drug use, right? But if you're gonna,
I do.
Yeah. But if you're gonna use it with intention and some reverence, then I mean it's okay, right? We're not,
or just to relax.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. I'm not a partaker myself, but I've got nothing against it. So just so you know, we're not advocating the use of drugs.
Some of
But
us.
you're free to have sovereignty over your consciousness.
And sovereignty over your consciousness. Okay, so what basically we're just gonna we want people to send in their experiences then?
Yeah, we get them regularly all the time anyway. So I've got a couple to start off with. I mean, it won't be necessarily a weekly thing, but it would be good to talk about people's experiences on, whether it's DMT or LSD or that type of thing. What's your thought?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah?
I like it.
I've got an old one here saved. Do you want me to go into it?
An old one?
Yeah.
Like 60s, 70s old?
No. No, from one of our listeners.
Fuck yeah. Fuck, fired up. Fired up.
All right, so this is from Holly Denton. We've heard from her before. She says, you didn't...
We're going to need a jingle.
So they had a bit of LSD left over. Friends came over for the weekend. They ate it pretty early before anybody else got there. By the time my other friends arrived, we were already tripping. I'd only done one tab, and if I had more, I definitely wouldn't have hesitated to eat it. Also, I'm pretty fucking sure I saw aliens during my trip. I shit you not. Remember the last story I told you about the alienish vibes we got while tripping and accepting it? Well, when I was outside at night during my peak, I started to hear some loud buzzing vibrations in my brain. There were like 5 different pitches, and I was looking around to the left or right, hoping to see where the noise was coming from. Then I looked up, and I saw this alien-like figure in the clouds, above in the clouds. It looked like a cloud, but in the total shape of an alien. It was incredible. I still heard buzzing and vibrations, and it was so intense. I saw it so clear, like gray figures all circled around me and my friend, just watching us. They weren't scary, but they were definitely intimidating. I was so relieved and startled and stunned, but I saw what I saw, and I will never forget it. I think they connected with me for a few seconds because I looked right at them. They looked so close to us, like we were sitting in their crystal ball or something. It was great. And then she said, we had some very interesting ideas during our trip. First, the idea of terrorism. It's only an
Terrorist?
idea. It's only an idea.
Terrorist?
Nothing more.
Terrorist?
Americans have the idea that other countries are terrorists, but those countries believe we are the terrorists. The government has so much money involved with terrorism. Because of it, we have more technology and national security than ever before. What brings me to the topic of 911? Many believe that we planned 911 just so we could have...
911, is that what you just called it?
Just so we could attack other countries for resources.
Did you just call it 911?
Yeah, is that okay?
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Instead of 911, you mean?
Yeah.
Don't some people call it 911 still? No?
I don't think anybody's ever called it 911.
Yeah.
Maybe on like the first day.
Oh. Anyways, thanks, Holly, for your story, your trip. She also forwarded me a couple cool links. I think I already talked about them, collectiveevolution.com. Some pretty cool stories on there. So we'll continue on with that segment.
Fuck yeah, send them in.
This one? This is
are you doing 2?
Yeah, I'm going to start off with 2 for, yeah.
Yeah, you like to push your luck.
Yeah. No, this is and this is from a new fan from Australia too. His name's Michael. He says, "First up, I love your show. It is very, very rapidly becoming one of my favorites, if not my favorite. I've been listening for a while now. I think I first heard your show on the Graylian Report last year. It was honestly kind of a slow start, but my interest in your show snowballed. To be honest, Grimerica used to be the show I used to listen to when there was nothing else to listen to, but now it's the one podcast I look forward to every single week. The guests you guys have on are often really unique, the kind of people other paranormal podcasts don't tend to pay a lot of attention to. And I'd have to parrot your many other listeners in saying that the vibe of your show is super laid back and easy. It's a good balance of casualness and professionalism, so keep it up, guys." So anyways, this is a pretty long story, but it's kind of got some synchronistic events in there too that you might want to pay attention to, Darren. You ready to
Shoot.
go? All right. Okay, so this is the craziest trip he's ever had. I'm gonna cut through some of it. It was LSD, I think. Another LSD one.
What are you doing?
I'm just
What are
trying
you
to figure
cutting
out
through?
what I go through. Okay, so he's hanging out with a friend. And he says, I'm going to bring this girl along. And he's like, he wasn't really into third wheeling, but he decided to try it anyways. And it turns out he already knew her, and they were kind of like arch enemies.
Arch enemies?
Yeah. So, and there's a really slim chance that they, all three of those people would be hanging out together because they didn't have any like common connections or friends. So, anyways, they had differences in political opinions, and you know, it wasn't something you'd normally like hate somebody over or whatever, right? So he just found out that was the girl that was joining them on this three-way kind of, you know, evening, right? And she was bringing LSD along. So he paid Jane, this we'll call the girl, and took 2 doses from her, and then he dropped them. I then invited them to take their doses too, and they refused. Jane and John, so the fact Jane was there even in the first place was pretty weird coincidences. So anyways, it turns out they planned on getting me tripping and then manipulating my trip or whatever for their own enjoyment. Talking to me as if I was 5 years old and telling me I'm Jesus and dumb shit like that. You guys ever heard people that do shit like that while you're tripping? It's so annoying. Needless to say, I felt really betrayed. They would stay completely sober and just laugh at me as I tripped balls. Eventually, John and Jane began getting all friendly on the couch together and shit, trying to tease me with their overall vileness. It was a super uncomfortable situation. I was thankful for the fucking deep sea stingray rainbow looking motherfucker that the ceiling fan had become for a distraction. They were ganging up on me and being all childish and shit, acting like high school bullies. To be honest, basically just saying whatever they could to bring my self-esteem down. Among the spooky as hell, among the spooky as hell, shadowy, vaguely humanoid figures I was seeing constantly during this trip, I noticed something standing in the doorway of the living room. It was a German Shepherd, the same breed as my childhood dog Rembrandt. A dog who, according to my parents, my buddy had a dog named Rembrandt, an old high school buddy of mine.
Really?
Yeah. So, according to his parents, was very protective and fond when he was a little kid of him, right? He was about 12 when he was born, so he was a pretty old big dog already, died around the age 17, so basically when this guy was 5, right? Naturally, I don't have many memories, but the amount of photographs my parents have of me and him together, it seems evident that they are inseparable. Even today, his memory means a lot to me. I stared at this figure and tried to reach out to touch him, but he dissipated into a lightish black smoke, which only moved when I touched it, which was somewhat disturbing. I'm no stranger to hallucinogens, but seriously, there was something about watching your childhood dog be wiped into a weird static smoke. It was then that I looked over to notice Jane holding my phone. She asked me for my passcode. I said, unthinking, $12.95, which I could have sworn it was because that's my birth date, and I used that number for a few unimportant things. She said it didn't work, so she asked again, and I replied, $12.95. Then it occurred to me, why was I trying to allow my tormentor to access my phone and subsequently my Facebook, my emails, all that shit? And then I remembered the real code in my phone, 7639, which on a numerical keypad, actually I said the number wrong, but it spells out Remy, as in Rembrandt, right?
Remy as in Rembrandt?
Yeah, that's what they used to say short for Rembrandt, right, is Remy.
But it's REMB.
The thought then occurred to my drug-addled mind, don't give her that number.
Number? What does it say?
Number. I just fucked it up. They eventually got bored of toying with me and driving me into a depressive and pretty dark trip as they constantly berated my self-esteem with personal remarks and left to go fool around in the other room. I then sat there having a terrible trip. I was cold in the middle of the room, wishing I was home. They didn't even give me a couch to sleep on. I was on the floor with no blankets in the middle of winter with no heating. I was alone. I could hear my mate and this chick going at it in the next room. I allowed myself to fall from my sitting position in the middle of the room onto my back, and suddenly the carpet felt like snow. Looking around, I saw that it was snow. And when I looked up at the ceiling was gone, replaced by a starry night on all sides, and I appeared to be surrounded by gnarled, dead trees, and I could feel light snow falling on my face, my hands, and as I lay in the snow looking upwards. I felt something gently bite my leg, and then it seemed to drag me. I felt as if I was being dragged through the snow. The trees moved out of view, And when all was still again, I thought it was kind of a dugout under the roots of what seemed to be a huge tree. I sat up and saw Rembrandt, my old dog. He curled up around me and I felt warm. I cried. Pretty shamelessly. I've never had such a crazy trip before. In fact, I've never had a trip that vivid before. And I stayed there all night for what seemed like hours until I fell asleep and woke up in the middle of John's living room. The following morning, the depressing sense of loneliness I'd been fighting since I had broken up with my girlfriend had completely gone, and I had never felt happier. It was such a strange, rapid change of mood. So also of worthy note, and maybe even the strangest of all, was the commute home that following morning. I saw so many people out in the city walking German Shepherds. They are a rare breed in this part too. I still own one to this day. His name is Kane. But to see so many German Shepherds out on the streets of Melbourne, I mean, I didn't count it, but I'd hate to throw a number out there. But if I had to, I'd say there was 15 of them. And on Facebook, the few friends who I had who owned German Shepherds all seemed to post pictures of their Shepherds that day. So I probably saw another 4 or 5 on the Facebook timeline too. A German Shepherd synchronicity, if you will. The crazy thing is that everything like this happens to me involves dogs. I love dogs, and for some reason, dogs seem to love me most of the time. And I'm known as the crazy dog guy among many friends and family for the fact that he pretty much is followed by dogs. So anyways, he's got a lot of stories like that. No more involving LSD, but dogs, wolves, etc. are a common hallucination when he takes hallucinogens. Always dogs, man. So he's sorry for the super long story, but it's cool to hear it, man. I feel sorry for you about that bad trip.
I do feel sorry
for mean people. I imagine
no
that.
doubt. Yeah, this one's for your buddy.
Douchebag.
Yeah.
By no agenda.
Yeah.
No, that's bullshit, man. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. That's brutal, eh? So he says, keep up the good work, guys. Your show is insanely good. That's from Michael. So thanks for that. Sorry about the bad trip, but you know what? It sounds like he came out of it good. He's in a better mood. He saw his German Shepherds. His dog kind of like came to the rescue.
No doubt. No doubt. It's not a synchronicity, but...
All the German Shepherds that he saw that day?
I think it's just choosing.
You're hard.
Choosing to see.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh. What if they all were connected to his dog, right? And they all came out to support him.
Support him?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
Well, like they all like led their owners to the area where he would be, driving by. Is that too out there for you?
You know, I have actually heard of this before. Have you heard? I remember when I was a kid hearing the legend of a German Shepherd. He used to just travel town to town.
There's a voice keeps on calling me down the road.
Is that what you do the whole time?
Every stop I make a new friend.
Do you know what it is?
Is that the littlest hobo?
Yeah.
Very funny.
That was not bad. On the fly.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
You got any spam?
Yeah.
Since we ate the spam, I'm fucking hungry.
Oh my god.
I might
Okay, well,
actually eat
actually,
this spam
no, hang
tonight.
on. Oh, you got one there?
I do.
Yeah, I'm pretty hungry too.
I can fry
was
that
good.
shit up.
Yeah.
Send more spam.
Okay, I'm going to read out an email from Harold. He
I
said
was on the spam website. There's all kinds of different kinds. There's hickory smoked.
Really? Okay, you ready for this? He's got a
Shoot.
synchronicity that might involve all of us. This is Harold from Florida. He says, rate this one, and this is for real. You guys got the spam from me because you were saying spam gram, right? I sent you guys the spam. Then you just found out that Mist in History class was using a similar icon from the Moya from Easter Island for their podcast, right? This was because the guy who does your newsletter, he was talking about Justin, was looking for the history of spam. Mist in History had done a podcast about spam, the delicious meat in a can. The podcast was released on September 24th, 2014. This was when my wife bought the spam and I sent it to you guys the day after. I remember this because we bought a new car on this day. I did not even know about this podcast till you spoke about it on your last podcast. So you found out about this other podcast using the Moai from Easter Island, just like your podcast, by me sending you spam on the day that the Mist in History podcast put out a podcast about spam. What the He says, Darren, this involves you. It's got to be high on this one. Synchronicity 9.5 is not a 9.9. this really happened.
Synchronicity. It's
Oh, fuck. That's a gooder.
That's pretty good, eh?
That
It came
is
out on the
good.
same day he bought the spam and sent it, and the day before he sent it to us.
9.42.
Really? Really? That's pretty.
That'll be tough to beat. If that all lines up, that's incredible.
Really? Wow. So if it involves you, you definitely have a soft spot for the synchro.
No, it's just an incredible synchronicity.
Really, eh? Okay.
His wife bought the spam on the same day that the podcast
Yeah.
about spam came out that Justin listened to, that when he searched had the same MOI as the Grimerica show.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, eh?
The odds of that happening, billion?
I wonder if they know about our show. You should.
Well, that's the thing. It could still just be simple plagiarism, in which case it's a 4.
No, it's not. Who played them?
Don't touch
Plagiarized
my foot.
us? I don't think that's the case. You should tweet him or something. Tweet him.
I
a
should
pic.
tweet him.
Yeah.
I ripped this off, man.
So hey, what if we found out that they actually made that logo the same day that RPJ sent his artwork to us?
If that happened, I'll suck your dick.
I'm not even going to research it then. Somebody else has got to do it.
That's my thoughts on the odds of that.
All right. Well, I guess we should just get into our interview here with Robert Sully the Fourth.
Yeah, that's a good note to end on, I suppose, a good synchro. Sully, well, you guys know Sully. Not much more to say about that.
Cinema symbolism. So there's some pretty crazy stuff in here, right? All kinds of different symbolism. He's
That's
just one of these
the
knowledgeable guys, right? Like how he keeps it all in there. I don't know. It's like,
Sounds like Ray Romano.
you think so?
Big time.
So not anymore.
I think he could get voice work.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, he's a Freemason and he's a theologian and
Then he'll get that
historian,
33rd degree.
antiquarian, author, researcher. Yeah.
All
Fascinating
around
guy.
good guy.
Yeah.
Enjoy the chat, guys. We'll see you when we see you in the outro. Okay, guys, in Grimerica tonight, we are re-welcoming, somebody's already stamped his passport once, which is a rare thing. I think this is only probably the second return guest we've had. But we've got Robert W. Sullivan IV back to talk about his new book. But first, the grumpy Graham Dunlop. How's it going tonight, buddy?
Oh, that's a good one. Hey, I'm not doing too bad considering I just found out I have bronchitis, I think, so we'll try and struggle through this. I'm a little tired, but I'm excited because this is going to be a fun episode. We're going to be talking cinema symbolism with Robert Sullivan, who was here talking about the Royal Arch of Enoch before, which was fascinating. One of those episodes I learned a ton about. But this is more about pop culture, and if you've ever wondered about those movies like Star Wars or The Matrix or Lord of the Rings, if you ever wondered about what the symbolism is, and whether that comes from, numerological or astrological or mythological, alchemical, Kabbalistic, whatever that is, Robert's dug to the depths of this in his new book, Cinema Symbolism, a guide to esoteric imagery in popular movies. So we're looking forward to a fun episode of learning all kinds of crazy stuff. Welcome to Grimerica again, Robert.
Hey, guys. It's great to be back with you here on Grimerica. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great. This is one where Darren and I were talking about how fun it'll be because Darren's a bit of a movie buff himself, and I love all the ancient symbolism and all that. And I've been wanting to read more, kind of Jungian type writing. So this is good. What is your? I want to start off with, like, so you're talking about symbolism in all of or a lot of our popular movies. So what is the message here that you want to get across? I kind of want to tease people a bit with like the higher level sort of message about your book.
Well, what the book was born out of was really the sort of the last chapter of the Royal Arch of Enoch, where I sort of delved into like Masonic, Enochian, solar themes going on in movies, and I in some movies it was really, I had studied this, esoterica, the occult, like you said, Jungian psychology, mythology, numerology, astrology, and there were some movies that just really stood out with it.
Okay.
And this was something I tied into the final chapter of the Royal Arch of Enoch. Like, for example, the first, it's the final chapter of the Royal Arch of Enoch book. It's called So Dark the Con of Man was the title of the chapter. It's the last chapter. That, of course, it comes out of the Da Vinci Code. But it's like the first National Treasure movie, which is a retelling of the Royal Arch of Enoch Masonic ritual. And just some of this stuff was just appearing. I just, noticed it. And it became to the point where it was obvious to me this was not a coincidence, that this material was being intentionally placed there. So, it was twofold in writing cinema symbolism. One was to point it out and really, kind of point out this, really hidden symbolism that sort of veiled this underlying theme in mythology and numerology and, arcana that was going on in these movies. There's numerous reasons we could suggest as to why this is being done. The overarching answer is, the most general answer I can probably give is it's to me, it's when these movie makers and producers and directors are doing this, it's sort of embedding their movies with this ancient mythology that it's really transforming the film into mythology is what it is, by putting this the Egyptian symbolism in, and the Osirian Egyptian legends and the numinous folklore and things like that. And that's really what the book was about, was pointing out this material and what the movies are what they are, but underneath the celluloid was sort of this other story going on. And it's like you said at the beginning, is some of it's Kabbalistic, some of it's alchemical, some of it's Freemasonic. And that was very interesting to me. And like I said, it was the final chapter of the Royal Arch of Enoch book, and I had seen this in other movies. So rather than just, I couldn't keep writing, in the Royal Arch. I mean, the chapter would have gone on forever. So when I got done the Royal Arch, I just continued on with this new book, this cinema symbolism. And one of the other things I wanted to talk about in the book was, there is sort of this, element in Hollywood that is exploitative, salacious. So some of this stuff, is put in there for sensationalist purposes. I mean, there's little question about that. But then I also delved into the idea of Carl Gustav Jung, the collective and conscious, how the camera collects everything or films everything, and how certain things are just so embedded in our, subconscious psyche that we can't avoid it. And it appears that some of this stuff is appearing whether the director wants it to or not.
Right.
And I cite to a couple cases where, to me, the director didn't know about the material, but there it is in the film. So you have this sort of three-way tug of war going on, where I do believe it's intentionally placed, but it's sort of like embedding the film with with these ancient legends and symbols to transform the film into mythology. And it's the first word of the sentence of the book is movies are the new mythology. And that was really the overarching theme of the book, as it were.
Right. Okay. So you just answered the questions I was about to ask you, is whether it was kind of both or intentional from the movie producers / directors, and also some sort of manifestation from our collective consciousness or unconscious or whatever. And then, so the other thing that's interesting is, so what you're saying is that this movie industry, or this part of our pop culture, is like a new media for mythology, whereas in the past it would have been, written down somewhere maybe, or passed along verbally, or in some other sort of some other way towards the masses. Now we have this easy route of spreading the myth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the movie making let's be brutally honest. The movie making industry is $1 billion industry. It's a very powerful source. It's certainly influential on material culture. And they're mythology making. It's exactly what they're doing, and they're drawing on ancient mythology as well. Some of it is just the same story repackaged over and over again, with different names and different themes. But some of the themes repeat themselves with different characters. I talk about and this again ties into Carl Gustav Jung, but it also talks into the works of people like Joseph Campbell and the monomyth. Yeah, of course. And the hero with 1,000 faces, and that's exactly it. It is the hero with 1,000 faces. You could call this guy the Sun. You can call it Horus. You could call it James Bond, Harry Potter, Neo, Luke Skywalker, whatever you want. It's the same. Yeah, it's the Frodo Baggins. It's the same story over and over again. I mean, it's tweaked, of course, and different elements appear and things like that. But you will definitely find these underlying themes in a lot of these Hollywood's biggest blockbusters. So I delve into that aspect of with Joseph Campbell, certainly the influence. I mean, and that's no state secret. Lucas has said on numerous occasions that he was, heavy into Joseph Campbell. And you always find this, I've been asked this before. It's, these guys, some of these guys may not be aware of this. That's bull. I mean, you research all these guys, whether it be the guys who wrote the books, the directors, the filmmakers. These guys have some sort of rub with the esoteric world in some way or are interested in it. You have Manly P. Hall's Philosophical Research Society, a stone's throw from the Hollywood making industry, for God's sakes, literally a stone's throw. These guys, I don't buy into it. These guys are just, getting lucky or anything like that. I mean, these guys know what they're doing. I mean, especially when you're dealing with some real masters out there, like the Lucases, like the Wachowski brothers, or I should say siblings at this point. Who's the other one? The Darren Aronofsky. He really goes overboard in some of his movies. So the material is definitely embedded. I mean, it's intentionally placed and it's in these movies. And like I said, it was born out of this last chapter of the Royal Arch of Enoch, where I kind of brought that book up to speed and thought, okay, well, we've explored all this ancient Masonic history and legends and lore. Let's end on like Masonry in Hollywood and talk about things like National Treasure and some of the solar motifs in films and things like that. And like I said, there was more stuff I wanted to talk about, but of course the chapter couldn't go on. So Cinema Symbolism was born and recently released. And like I said, I'm real happy with the way it came out. In fact, I'm so happy with the way it came out. I'm actually writing Cinema Symbolism 2 right now, its sequel. Because there was even more movies I wanted to talk about, but I had to excise them out. Otherwise, Cinema Symbolism would have gone on forever.
Wow. So did you notice any of new and up and coming movie makers that are sort of following the footsteps in some of the older, more prominent ones at all through your research?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would definitely say, you got the guys, I guess. I mean, you could even find this stuff, going back, The Wizard of Oz has this material. The Adventures of Robin Hood, which has a lot of, legends of the Green Man, a lot of tarot card imagery. And then you get into Lucas, Zemeckis, Stanley Kubrick, certainly with The Shining. You get into symbolism with that. But again, modern day, the Wachowskis with The Matrix, which is just, the Gnostic religion, on screen. Aronofsky's movies, especially Black Swan, is very alchemical. A lot of Jungian tarot card imagery. Tarot embodiment with a lot of their characters. You go to the 70s. I'm finding this with the horror filmmaker Dario Argento with Suspiria. Again, a lot of tarot card iconography going on in that. Very subliminally placed. It's not noticeable. It's not someone flashing a tarot card on screen or anything like that. Although you will occasionally find that in film. I think of the James Bond Live and Let Die movie, and I have a whole chapter on James Bond that's very esoteric as well. So, you will find this in the older movies. You will find this in the movies of the 60s. You'll find this. You'll find it in all genres. I mean, you'll find it in science fiction. You'll find it in chick flicks. You'll find it in comedies. You'll find it in action films. It really, it's really overarching. It seems to be everywhere. And you read Cinema Symbolism, I delve into movies, it's every slate of movies in there. I mean, I think I touched on a lot of genres in that book. And again, it's something I'm continuing on with Cinema Symbolism too.
So
Do you have, so obviously you've been looking into all these movies. Do you have like, what's your favorite one? What's one that like, maybe the one that maybe caught you off guard?
Boy, there's a lot of them. I guess I really like the a lot of the stuff going on with L. Frank Baum and The Wizard of Oz. That has multi layers of symbolism on it. The political allegory. A lot of people are maybe aware of that. But then there's this whole Gnostic initiation into the mystery tradition beneath the surface in that. You'll also find that in Alice in Wonderland. I definitely would say the Back to the Future trilogy stood out. I mean, that has a lot of Egyptian iconography in it, a lot of solar iconography, very well concealed, not on its surface, but if you peel it away, it does turn up. And then I would say another one that is a movie that is just so overwrought with symbolism, I actually had to incise it in half, and I delved into the Jungian sort of psychological tarot card or symbolism, I guess is the best word, with Black Swan. But there's a whole alchemical story with that as well going on. And I was going to put it in cinema symbolism, but it didn't mesh. It just didn't gel. You had to tell the same story twice almost. So I excised out I cut out the alchemical storyline and or underlying symbology. That's going in cinema symbolism too. Really a lot going on in that movie. The Back to the Future trilogy, the James Bond material with Ian Fleming, I really like that. The Exorcist, a lot of Gnostic themes of Ascensio and apotheosis going on in that, with Karis and the little girl. And the Omen trilogy, which has a very veiled, very well concealed astrological motifs going on. And you will find this often with these movies that involve the devil or demons or demons from hell. They seem to come out when it's winter or the winter months when the sun is in decay in the northern hemisphere. Filmmakers really love to play around with this. Those are just a couple of the chapters that I delved into. But yeah, I guess the Back to the Future movies, it really was one I was really proud of. Some of the work that I'm writing right now with The Shining, some of the alchemical repeating nature of that movie is really coming out. The Dario Argento Suspiria has a lot going on in it. But yeah, Back to the Future, Wizard of Oz. I don't know if I could really say which one's my favorite, but I really had, writing cinema symbolism. In writing it, I had to go watch all these, movies again, which, boo-hoo me. I mean, it was, just sit down with a legal pad and, my research is watching movies. So can't beat that. And, I had a great time writing it and I had a great time researching it. And basically, it took the 20 years that I put into the Royal Arch and turned it on Hollywood, for lack of a better word.
So speaking of Back to the Future, then, can you get into some of the symbolism itself? Get into the minutia for that one specifically, let's say?
Yeah, absolutely. You really have a lot going on in this. You have to be familiar with a lot of Egyptian mythology, which I delve into, the Osirian cycle, the death and resurrection of Osiris, who is the father figure. Then you have his solar child, Horus. And of course, this would be the McFly family, Osiris is killed and resurrected, of course. George McFly, who would be the Osiris comparative figure, he's killed and resurrected in part 2. The enemy of the McFlys is Biff Tannen, and of course the enemy of Osiris, Horus, and Isis was Typhon. So you have the play on the name Tannen with Typhon. You have, of course, the McFlys is the Sun family living in Lion Estates, which is Leo the Lion, which is the sole house of the sun. And then, of course, you have Brown. I mean, it just never ends with this movie. You have Brown, who is sort of the Hermes Trismegistus figure, the wizard. But you have the number 5 always hovers around him. November 5th, 1955. This corresponds with the 5th card of the tarot called the Hierophant. If you read the Egyptian interpretation of this card, the Hierophant is the master of space-time and is the only person who can manipulate space-time. Thus, Brown is surrounded with the number 5. And of course, I mean, you have just a lot of real subtle imagery going on in that movie. Back to the Future. The opening of the movie is the end of the movie, with the timepieces, where it opens it opens with Doc Brown's little house with all the time clocks, the clocks. And you'll see the little man hanging off the minute hand, and this, of course, happens at the end. Then you'll see the little wino lifting the bottle up, and, of course, Marty meets the wino at the end when he comes back. And then you'll hear the ad click on Doc Brown's alarm clock for Statler Toyota. And, of course, that's the car dealership that hovers throughout the entire movie trilogy. This is the car that Marty gets the 4x4 at the end is from Statler Toyota dealership. The Toyota dealership sits across, and this is another thing Zemeckis really screws around with, is the buildings in 1985 will have a Kabbalistic, dualistic meaning in the future and in 1885. Marty, when he goes back in time to 1885, he gets the car from Statler Toyota dealership. When he walks into Hill Valley of 1885, the first thing he sees is welcome. It's a sign for Statler horse trading. The ancestor's the horse trader. Of course, he's the car dealer in the future. So you'll find that going on. And then, of course, the whole thing with the sun chariot. A Horus would be Marty. Of course, Isis would be Lorraine, would be sort of the Virgin Mother character who confuses Horus with Isis. Of course, when Marty goes back in time, she should fall in love with Osiris. She falls in love with Horus. And of course, Horus was comparatively Apollo, or the sun god. And of course, the sun god rides around in the solar chariot. This is the DeLorean, and this is invested with solar symbolism. The sun chariot has to hit 88 miles an hour. And of course, we're told that this lightning's going to strike the clock tower at 10:04. This is a very veiled reference to the date of October 4th, which is the 277th year of the solar calendar, meaning there are 88 solar days left. This is why the sun chariot has to hit 88 miles to spit fire, manipulate time, become the sun chariot of Apollo or Horus. It never ends with this one. It just goes on and on. I'm just scratching the surface with some of this material. But the first one really, when these movies are usually in trilogies, usually the first movie has the most in it. The second one does too, and the third one plays around with a little bit too. Same thing with the Matrix movies. The first one's really overloaded. Second and third have some. But yeah, Back to the Future just is really the complete retelling of the Egyptian Osirian cycle from start to finish. And I really break it down in the book much more than I'm doing here. I get much more into the Egyptian mythology. I could spend literally the next 2 hours just going over this alone, but I've given you a taste of it. Back to the Future was really a fun movie for me to analyze because that's a movie where you really wouldn't expect to find it. But that's often the case, is the movies you don't expect to see it in are the ones that have the most of it. And the Back to the Future trilogy, all three of them, are just really overloaded with this esoteric, solar, astrological, Egyptian symbolism.
Huh.
Do we see that number 88 pop up in any other movies? Is like cross genres and?
Oh yeah, sure. It has different meaning. I talk about it in the book. Absolutely. In Greek gematria, the number 888 is actually the equivalent of Jesus Christ. And I mentioned this in the book, and it's actually the first chapter of the book. It comes I think the Back to the Future chapter's 4, and the first chapter's The Exorcist. It's in the scene in The Exorcist where William Friedkin, who directed The Exorcist, replicates the Last Supper painting of Da Vinci. And it's the scene where the mother is sitting around at the Behringer Clinic at the head of the table as Jesus. Her name is Chris, echoing Christ. And she's surrounded by the four groups of three, the 12 apostles. And this is what he's symbolically implanting in your head, is that a spiritual cure is needed for the little girl. And this is the scene where the doctor, it looks just like the Last Supper painting. She's sitting at the head, and you got the four groups of three with the doctors around her as the 12. And the one doctor says, well, there's nothing we can do here. And she makes a comment, I'll keep it user clean. She says something to the effect of 88 doctors here. And again, here's the number 88 again. And in this case, in this context, it would be the numerical designation of Jesus Christ. She's symbolically invoking Jesus, whose name in Greek gematria is 888, or would be the numerical equivalent. So you have the invoking of Jesus Christ there. in this scene that is replicating the Da Vinci Last painting. And what Friedkin is really symbolically showing you there on the screen is that a spiritual cure is needed for the little girl. But it's very well veiled in The Exorcist. But it's 88 again, and it's used in a different context, but of definite symbolic importance.
So here's one that surprised me a little bit, and could be my all-time favorite movie, but Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So
sure.
Talk to me about that one a little bit. Oh,
absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned this one. This was something that I actually talked about in this comes straight out of the first book, the Royal Arch of Enoch book, where in the final chapter, this was one of the movies I took on, was Excalibur, which the Arthurian legend. This was a movie that came out by John Borman. Make a long story real short, the Arthurian legend, the legend of King Arthur, is again a solar allegory. King Arthur is the sun. The knights are the 12 houses of the zodiac, his helpers. He sits at the round table, the wheel of the zodiac. You have Lancelot, who's Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun. That's why he's his favorite knight. You have the sacred feminine there. The Queen Guinevere, the White Queen. Merlin, Hermes Trismegistus. At any rate, if you want to see the astrological solar symbols of of King Arthur, the best movie is Excalibur. That's really the movie with the best astrological symbolism in it, for the Arthurian legend. At any rate, you'll find this solar symbology rubbing off on the Holy Grail story with Monty Python. And this really shouldn't be a surprise. You find Terry Gilliam, who is a member of the Python troupe, was very into Gnosticism. You'll find Gnostic themes in 12 Monkeys, Brazil, Adventures of Baron Munchausen, which has a lot of Masonic themes in it. A couple of these movies I'm taking on in cinema symbolism too. But yeah, Holy Grail. You have King Arthur as the sun, with Patsy. Look at the symbol on their tunic. Look no further than that if you want to see who they symbolize. You have some of the astrological themes going on with the knights. You have, Lancelot would be Scorpio, which would be, in the old days, was ruled by Mars, which is the god of war, and this is why all Lancelot wants to do is run around killing people. You have the, sun versus the Black Knight, night versus darkness. You'll have a lot of astrological motifs turning up in the Holy Grail Monty Python movie. And again, a lot of the Python troupe, most notably Gilliam. You have the guy who's the wizard, the Hermes Trismegistus wizard is Bedivere. And of course, the symbol for him is the Kabbalistic tree of life on his tunic. You'll find it in Holy Grail as well. Sort of the Arthurian solar legend is definitely visible in Excalibur. It even rubs off on the Monty Python movie. I think that's chapter 3 in the Cinema Symbolism book. And again, you'll find, it's the same thing. You'll find, when they come out of winter, they meet Tim, the enchanter.
Yeah, I was going to ask about him, yeah.
Right. You have, after the vernal equinox, you have Aries the ram is the first sign. They meet Tim, who has the ram's horns. Aries is a fire sign. Tim is fire obsessed. And of course, it's under, this is the time of Easter, the vernal equinox. And of course, this is the worship of the rabbit, the sacred hare. And of course, so where does he lead them to? The sacred rabbit, the evil little rabbit. This all ties into the vernal equinox symbology. It's astrological, astronomical. So yeah, you'll find it in Holy Grail as well.
Uh-huh. So that made me think about, I've been hearing a lot about this lately, how the ancient writings, and I've heard a couple other people talk about it on podcasts, and some of our religious texts and some of our mythologies is really more allegory or metaphorical. In your first chapter, you kind of have an intro. Yes. I read the intro to your book on Kindle before Kindle tricked me. I thought I had the whole book in there, but I guess it was just the free first half of the book or first bit of the book. So I made it through that. And you sort of lay out a foundation for the book, right?
Which book? Royal Arch or Cinema Symbolism?
Cinema Symbolism.
Yeah, you'll get like the first 15 pages for free, I think.
Right.
On Kindle. That's like the little free
whole thing until today. And then I couldn't buy it for some reason.
Oh, you should be able to. You should be able to buy it, no problem.
Yeah, I'll
I
try
mean,
again.
it's on sale now. By the way, it just went on sale from $9.99 to $5.99. So it's on sale. You can definitely buy it, download it. Yeah, you get the free sample. I think it's like the first 15, 20 pages of each book or so. But yeah, I mean, what was the question about astral? But the allegory with the religion and stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
and the metaphors that are, that people are starting to come out more from what I'm hearing, anyways, and talking about it being more about that than some sort of actual events, right?
Oh, sure. This was something I took on in Royal Arch of Enoch, which is chapter 3. In chapter 3, I get into a whole comparative religion, write up about, with the sun god, Jesus, how Jesus parallels the journey of the sun. And it's all symbolic. It's not really historic. And how this ties into the Masonic ritual. And yeah, I mean, you will find, these sort of motifs. And, I mean, I can talk about it in the context of the Royal Arch where, I mean, it's the same sort of thing. We have King. I mean, I'll just go into it briefly, and then I'll tie it into the movie, some of the movie stuff. But yeah, I mean, you have like the whole idea of like Jesus being the sun god, and of course, Son of God in English. You subtract the U with the O, and there you have it. But of course, it only works in English. But I mean, you have Jesus with the 12 houses of the zodiac, who are the 12 apostles. The virgin birth is, the constellation Virgo rising with the sun on the morning of December 25th. This is when the annual sun is born of the Virgin, the constellation Virgo, things like that. I mean, you have all the zodiacs. The 12 apostles correspond with all the 12 houses. You have the whole thing with the procession of the equinoxes, with Moses being the sun in the house of Aries the ram. But then you have the Piscean age, which is the worship of the sun in the house of Pisces. This would be why Jesus is always surrounded by fish and water, with Pisces the fish and Pisces is a water sign. Of course, the next sign up would be Aquarius. And this ties into the Masonic ritual. It's the concept of the death and resurrected sun man, which in the third degree is Hiram Abiff, who's killed and resurrected. Alas, has 12 people going looking for him. I wonder what that represents. So, I mean, you'll find this again over, and, you'll find the concept of the death, the solar hero, Neo in the Matrix, who's killed and resurrected. You have Luke Skywalker, who does battle with the Dark Lords. The name Luke Skywalker, the name Luke is from the Latin lux, meaning light. What light skywalks across the day, across the sun. You have Jesus Christ, James Cole, 12 monkeys. I wonder what that represents. Who is dead and resurrected at the end of the movie? Who wants to save mankind from a deadly virus as the savior of mankind? What other guys who have the initials JC are the savior of man? Let's see. John Connor saves mankind from evil Terminators. John Coffey, who resurrects a dead mouse and dies for the sins of the South in the Green Mile. It never ends. It's the same story over and over again. Just very, very veiled, very planted in our subconscious by these filmmakers. It's the whole, your Frodo Baggins, who bears the weight of the world and goes into the dark land to save Middle Earth from the Dark Lord. Who is Sauron? What does Sauron come from? Well, the name Sauron is a plagiarism of the name Saturn, who is the Lord of Death. And Saturn, the reason Saturn is the Lord of Death is it rules the house of Capricorn. When in the northern hemisphere, the sun, or the light of the world is in death. This is where, this is why Saturn is always associated with death. And Saturn, of course, is the planetary Lord of the Rings. This is why Sauron is the ring master, the master of the One Ring in Middle Earth. So, these guys know all this stuff, and they just, it's this mythology, the sun god. I mean, this is a very big motif in Hollywood. It's the same thing in the Bible. It's the Christ figure, the solar savior archetype. He turns up in film over and over again.
Darren, you had a question there. But what's I still kind of can't wrap my head around why they would do all this, right? Why would they hide all these symbols in this modern mythology and movie making?
Right. It's the same reason that an architect would hide astral alignments and sacred geometry in a building. It transforms the building into a forever memory temple. is what it's doing. And the filmmaker, by doing this in a film, it's doing the same thing. It's transforming a film into a piece of mythology. And it's the same sort of thing as with architecture and with astral alignments. They'll put it there, and if you're familiar with it, you'll be able to see it. But they're not going to tell you. That's key. It's only for those who can see it. And it's the same thing with these movies. If you can see it, you'll find it. And that was one of the motivating factors of writing this book was, you'll find it if you're familiar with the material, you'll be able to see it. And what it's literally doing is transforming movies in, like Star Wars into, let's be honest, Star Wars is, my generation's greatest piece of mythology. There isn't a person in Generation X who doesn't know this film, and they're printing money off this material. And literally by incorporating this arcana in these films, it's transforming celluloid into permanent mythology.
Huh. What about John McClane?
I'm not familiar.
Die Hard.
No, I don't do anything with the Die Hard movies.
Yeah, it's funny. There's some of them that just doesn't seem to apply to you, right?
Oh no, not every. That's a very valid point. Not every movie has this material. The movie not incorporating this stuff does not necessarily make a movie bad per se. The films of Quentin Tarantino are 100% devoid of this material. But they're great movies. I mean, who doesn't love Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction? You may have a couple archetypes thrown in there, but nothing. Nothing like what we've been talking about. Not every movie has this, and I took the maxim, and it was important for me is sort of when in doubt, throw it out, because I've watched numerous movies where I thought I might see something, and there was nothing there. Nothing there whatsoever to it.
Right.
And I really went after the movies that I was really happy with and satisfied that I could pin this down. Where I was seeing it over and over again.
Where
I was beyond the coincidence, point of view, basically.
Yeah. So after you've written this book and people, it's in their awareness a little bit more, all the symbolism, all the different types of symbolism, and that kind of starts to affect our collective consciousness. So how do you think that people becoming more aware of this hidden symbolism and more aware of the ancient genesis of some of this type of symbolism, how do you think that'll change our culture, or will it change our culture?
Well, I don't know if it'll change your culture, but I think it'll definitely make you more cognizant and more aware of what you're watching on screen. And it may bring another level of an enjoyment to the film. I mean, to me, I've been asked this question before, and I say it again here. It's like when I watch a Darren Aronofsky movie, I mean, if I'm just sitting around in a theater or just have something on in the background or something, I'm not, paying attention to it. That's one thing. But, when I do these, when I analyze these films, I literally sit there. I mean, I have to have a legal pad in front of me. I am constantly backtracking, going forward, backwards in the film. Something that could happen earlier could turn up later. And it literally, I've said this on other shows, when I watch like a Darren Aronofsky movie, I mean, I feel like I'm playing a symbolic game of chess with Bobby Fischer. I mean, it's like a challenge. I mean, and I think that's part of it as well. You ask like, why do these filmmakers do it? I mean, I think it's a challenge. It's, it's like a treasure hunt almost. We're going to put it in here. Find it if you can, outwit me. And the truth is I have been outwitted. When I was doing Black Swan, when I was writing Black Swan, there was two things I missed that I actually could have put in cinema symbolism. Like I said, I'm doing the alchemical take on it in cinema symbolism too, but I actually missed two very adroitly concealed things going on in Black Swan that I'm putting in cinema symbolism too. So I'm not perfect either, and like I said, these guys are very adroit with this material, and I think I fleshed out a lot of it in cinema symbolism, but who knows? Maybe there's some more in there that I'll have to go back and take another look. Like I said, I'm writing cinema symbolism too. Right now, I'm going to do the C.S. Lewis material, Alan Moore, some more of the horror stuff with Suspiria, The Shining, the Robin Hood film with Errol Flynn that has very, very well done tarot card archetypes in it. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's something I enjoy doing, and got to watch these films. That when I analyze them, it takes much more than one viewing to pick up on some of this stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Shouldn't be surprised, really. I mean, it does seem like a lot of these movies had the same plot for like the last decade. They need a new myth book.
Yeah, you'll find, you'll find some of these themes, kind of repeating themselves with, like the Harry Potter stuff and Star Wars. I mean, again, it ties into the Joseph Campbell monomyth, where, for lack of a better term, if the hero is a representation of the sun, then the monomyth is sort of the sun's journey. I mean, and, like I said, there are variations to it. I mean, they're not all identical, of course, but you will find themes of the Dark Lord and the Wizard Helper, and some sort of female woman who will come along who can be a trickster, but you can help out, or can be a good guy, but could be also a villain. So yeah, I mean, you'll find these archetypes, somewhat repeating themselves, but they do change it around a little bit. But Star Wars, the C.S. Lewis material, Lord of the Rings, you'll definitely have in those the Matrix, the solar archetype, savior figure, no doubt about it.
So what about
the Matrix? Let's talk about that.
Well, I wanted to talk about the Matrix in the context of it seems like there's a bit of a genre that is missing from this in a way, and maybe it's not applicable to the symbolism you're talking about, but kind of like the alien attack or the alien invasion type movies, right? Like, because there's a lot of movies coming out now about it's kind of the hostile alien theme, right? Is that, you see any symbolism in that theme, or do you think that's kind of missing? And then that brings us to the Matrix, which really is that, except it's kind of more wrapped around the monomyth.
Well, right. Well, I'll go back in time with the Matrix. With the Matrix films, and especially the first one, this is really the Gnostic religion on screen. That's really the best way for me to describe it. Huh. I mean, from a Gnostic standpoint, that has everything you want in it. I mean, everything. The concept, I'll go back in time a little bit, because this is something that is an interesting phenomenon, and this definitely happened. And I talk about it in the book, is you have the films of the early Cold War, where you had the sort of the hostile know-it-all alien, who's kind of comes down to Earth to teach mankind to stop warmongering. And then you have the alien who comes down to infiltrate society. This was the fear of the communist intrusion. Things like Invasion of the Body Snatcher, where we're all going to be cloned communists, and what's the other one? The Day the Earth Stood Still, where Klaatu comes to Earth and says, stop polluting the environment, stop, engaging in tribal warfare, or else, and learn to live in this, peaceful, utopian, kind of communistic society. So you will have this space the space alien movies of the 50s and early 60s are sort of the aliens are representing of communist Russia invading Eisenhower America, basically, and intruding on the wholesome nature of Eisenhower's America. And then you have the side effect of this, which is the proliferation of nuclear weapons. And then you get all the mutation movies off of this, where America, in order to defend itself, has to build nuclear weapons. And of course, you have the giant, the giant crickets that come alive, who get exposed to the nuclear waste and terrorize America, or the giant spiders that would be them. and then of course the most famous one of all, which is of course the anxiety of America dropping a nuclear weapon, is Godzilla, who is of course the American atomic bomb that bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is why Godzilla only attacks Japan, forever and ever. That's all Godzilla's modus operandi was, at least when he was originally created, was to just forever attack Japan and keep Japan in a state of suppression. So you have in the 50s and 60s, the whole alien genre was sort of this fear of communist invasion, and then you had the side effect with the proliferation of nuclear weapons and the fear of what, believe me, I'm just talking on some of the, some of the more famous monster movies. I mean, you got like things like Bride of the Monster, where the guy's going to use atomic energy to build the race of supermen, echoing Nazi Germany. Then you've got the, there's another one, Donovan's Brain, or The Fiend Without a Face, where you got mutated brains running around attacking people. So I get into a whole expose of the films of the alien, hostile alien movies of the 50s and 60s. Now you have them today, but I think some of the meaning's lost. Obviously, kind of the Cold War's over. Nuclear power sort of been harnessed. That fear, by and large, has been put to rest. So you do have the alien, the hostile alien movies like, in Independence Day, but it really harkens back to the movies of the 50s and 60s, where it was the birth of the Cold War and the birth of atomic power, for lack of a better word. So that's sort of where that comes from. I get into a whole thing on that in Cinema Symbolism. Turning to the Matrix, my goodness gracious. This is you have in this is really, the whole concept of the Gnostic religion of a person living in the false material world of the demiurge. This is the lesser god, and wakes up to the spiritual, and has the epiphany, realizes the material world is bogus, leaves it, and then hangs out with this group of people who are into the spiritual, know the material world is phony. And of course, I'm just describing the movie. What I'm describing is the Gnostic religion, but I'm describing the Matrix movie because they're one and the same thing, where you have Neo, who knows something's wrong, sheds off the material world, awakens, and, has this sort of epiphany that he's going to be the chosen savior, the solar archetype figure who's going to, save mankind from the phony world of the demiurge and the machines. And of course, in the Matrix 2, we're introduced to the architect, who is the lesser god. He's the creator of the false world. And of course, in Gnosticism, you had this character called the demiurge, who's the false god or the lesser god. He has this sort of coterie of agents who work for him called the archons. And of course, these are the agents in the movie, led by Agent Smith. And then, of course, Neo is the Christ-like savior. He gets on board. My God. We could go on and on with this thing forever with the Matrix. You have the guy, Morpheus, who is the guy who is sort of the hermit figure, the keeper of the wisdom, who brings Neo out of the dreamlike state. It's a real dualistic, interesting name to give to Morpheus. In mythology, Morpheus is the god of dreams and sleep. Yet it's Morpheus who brings Neo out of the dreamlike state into the real world. And of course, Neo is going to be this Christ-like savior when he's on board the ship, the Nebuchadnezzar. You see the plate Mark 3:11. This is the biblical verse Mark 3:11. Thou art the Son of Man. All demons bow down before you, announcing Neo as the new, Jesus Christ-like savior. He hangs around with the sacred feminine, Trinity of all things. Just really an overloaded of. The whole idea of this sacred. Sacred band of people who've shed off the material for the spiritual. This is a strain of Gnosticism that comes out of a philosopher named Valentinius. So you have the Valentinian strain, but then you've got the Manichaean strain, which is the good versus evil, light versus darkness, Neo versus the machines. This is the Jedi versus the Sith, Harry Potter versus Voldemort. Again. The whole concept of light versus darkness. So just with the Matrix alone, very Gnostic in nature. You have in the sequel, one of the ships is called the Gnosis of all things. Very Gnostic in nature. I have a whole chapter in the Matrix. Great movies. A lot of very veiled esoteric symbolism going on.
The red pill. What does the red pill signify?
Well, you have there are a couple things there. The idea you have the red and blue pill, where the blue pill puts you to sleep. You have a Masonic secret society influence on this, but this also the idea of the red and blue pill. The idea of a blue pill putting you to sleep comes out from a movie that came out in the early '80s called Saturn III. Which was a movie about going into outer space, and when you wanted to become unconscious, you took a pill called a blue dreamer. This is carried forward into a movie that came out 2 years before The Matrix called The Fifth Element, which is again very Gnostic, has a lot to do with the sacred feminine saving mankind, where in order to travel into outer space, you have to be put to sleep, you have to be knocked unconscious, and the stewardesses that do this all wear the blue uniforms. So you'll find that. So, of course, in The Matrix, the blue pill puts you to sleep. The red pill shows you the true reality. You have, when Neo goes into the sacred temple, which is the hotel, you have the floor of the checkered floor of Freemasonry, the black and white floor, what Manly P. Hall calls the floor of the mysteries. Of course, he's offered the blue pill, go back to sleep. The red pill gives you the true Kabbalistic wisdom. Freemasonry, you have the Blue Lodge, which is sort of the introductory level. But, if you really want to see, and Albert Pike talks about this, if you want the real secrets of Freemasonry, you go into the high degrees, what are called the red degrees. So, it's the blue versus red, sort of stay where you are or wake up to the true secrets. In Masonry, this would be the Blue Lodge versus the high degree. I talk about some of the I don't talk about, I do talk about a lot of the philosophical differences between the Blue Lodge and the high degrees in Royal Arch of Enoch. So you have that whole thing going on with the red and blue pill. And again, the origins of the blue pill putting you to sleep comes from a movie called Saturn III, and that's carried forward into a movie called The Fifth Element that came out 2 years before The Matrix. But yeah, you definitely have this sort of Gnostic Freemasonic influence going on with the red and blue pills. And of course, he takes the red pill, Neo, and then he turns into Alice in Wonderland. Literally goes through the mirror, through the looking glass. That's a homage to Lewis Carroll, and wakes up in Wonderland or the real world. And of course, he gets, for his gnosis, for his awakening, he gets flushed down a toilet where he is then hoisted in cruciform like Jesus towards the light, towards the spacecraft, the hovering craft. So yeah, you have this whole thing with Neo being the Christ-like savior. And like I said, I'm just literally scratching the surface with some of this stuff going on in The Matrix. But yeah, I do all three movies in the book, and it's a fascinating subject matter.
So what about the superhero movies? Like there's a whole now genre of the DC comic and the comic book heroes and all that. Is that kind of devoid of this symbolism? Is it sort of a little bit more surface level kind of stuff?
Oh no, you definitely have some mythological overtones going on in things like Batman and Superman. I talk about Superman more in cinema symbolism too. Batman, you have a lot of mythology. You have the concept of Bruce Wayne and Batman, the conscious ego versus the shadow self, who is Batman. But Batman's an interesting figure because he is his own wisdom provider. The Dark Knight, the Batman character, is a master detective, master of gadgets, crime fighter. So he's sort of his own enabler, which is rare. Usually these guys are all assisted by like some sort of hermit-like figure, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Gandalf, Dumbledore, people like that. Batman's devoid of that.
Well,
I know
he had Morgan
he has
Freeman.
Alfred. What's that?
Alfred and Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, but Alfred is more of an assistant, and so is Morgan Freeman, and Morgan Freeman's not in the comic books. But then a lot of the villains come out of mythology. You have the Lilith female trickster archetype is Catwoman. You have Janus, the Roman double-headed god, who is of course Two-Face. You've got the Joker, who's the devil type character. So yeah, you have that in Batman. I get into a lot more of the Batman mythology in cinema symbolism. But then of course Superman is again the Christ-like savior. The character, the only begotten son, sent to planet Earth to save mankind from itself with miraculous powers. In Superman 78 with Christopher Reeves, he resurrects a dead Lois Lane. The one that really has it is the one that just came out with Russell Crowe and Kevin Costner, where Superman. He constantly is running around saying, I'm 33 years old. I've been on Earth 33 years. This is, of course, a reference to Jesus being crucified at 33. Superman is constantly flying around in that movie, cruciform in front of the sun. And again, this ties into Jesus being the sun figure. I mean, and the Russell Crowe character, who is Jor-El, the father. I mean, he even says it. He even says, he says, you will make them one with the sun. I mean, I don't know how more obvious you can, get with that. As you know, the Christ-like savior, than Superman. But yeah, I mean, you have the, the miraculous, savior figure with Superman tying into the Christ-like savior. So yeah, no, superheroes definitely have it, no question about it.
So we had Robbie Graham on quite a while back on our podcast, and he's got this like a website, and I think he wrote about the silver screen saucers, right? And his thing was how all these UFO type movies and have been influenced by the DoD or the CIA, sometimes behind the scenes, and having some sort of script control even. So when you were researching who makes these movies, did you ever come across any hidden agendas from the institutions like the government or intelligence agencies, anything like that?
It's interesting you asked me that. I really there was like things that were planted that kind of there's one that really came to mind when I was doing this, and it's something I talk about in Cinema Symbolism too. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say I found a hidden agenda, but I mean, you will definitely see. I mean, it's no state secret. A lot of these movies, when they're made, do go to the military or to the FBI for advisement purposes, or for a helping hand. I mean, that's no state secret. I mean, I know, for example, when they did Silence of the Lambs, they involved the FBI about training in Quantico and things like that. So you will definitely have. I mean, sometimes these things like the FBI and the CIA, will engage a movie maker, to help put a positive spin on something or whatever.
Yeah.
So you will find that. The one that's real curious, and it definitely happened. It kind of went by. It kind of went under the wayside, or under the radar. Was I want to say, and I mean, this is definitely documentable. I mentioned Cinema Symbolism too. It's with it's the Transformer movie, and I want to say it's the second one.
Yeah, the one with the Dark Side of the Moon, or
it's the one where they fight on top of the pyramids at the end.
Okay.
It's that movie. And there's a scene in it. I think it's the second one. It may be the third one. There's a scene in it towards the end. It's when they're fighting. It's when the two Transformers are fighting on top of the pyramids at Giza. The John Turturro character, who is sort of like the Man in Black, the government spook character, he gets on the phone with the naval ship in the Mediterranean or something, and he gets on. It's a very quick scene. It doesn't. There's not much. You can miss it real fast. And he says something to the effect of like unleash the secret weapon or break out the thing. And the guy, the naval commander says, "Oh, I don't know what the hell you're talking about." He says, "You know damn well what I'm talking about." And he gives a code word for it. It's a rail gun on top of the ship. And the guy says, all right, break out the rail gun. And the rail gun comes up out of the belly of the ship or the bowels of the ship and fires an electromagnetic pulse and hits one of the Transformers fighting on top of the pyramid. Well, it was about 6 months after this movie came out that the Navy unveiled the rail gun on the ship. I mean, it's the same thing. And basically, and I even think in the article I read, it said the Navy used the Transformer movie to basically announce to the world that this railgun was on its way, and was no longer a thing of science fiction. So, I mean, there you go. There you have the government unveiling a real-life science fiction weapon through a Transformer movie. Doesn't get any better than that.
Sweet. Well, they must have been, I bet you they also unveiled secret bases on the Dark Side of the Moon in that movie, too. If I don't recall, I think it started on the Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, I mean, movies as prophetic. That's an interesting take. I don't really delve into it that much, but you will definitely find themes in movies that anticipate things going on. I mean, it's the one that I talk about, and we were just talking about The Matrix. I mean, by far and away, and I mean, I can't explain it, and I don't even try to. But I mean, I know that there is this whole subculture of 9/11. The 9/11 things turning up in films.
I wanted to ask you about that. Yeah.
I mean, so some of this, I mean, some of this stuff goes back 20 years to the 1980s. I mean, you know, I am 100% convinced some of this is purely coincidence. But the one in the Matrix is the hardest one to write off, just because one of the nature of the movie. I mean, you have the whole idea of sort of the death of the false world, reawakening to new consciousness.
Right.
You know, and the Matrix is by far and away the scariest one of all. It's Neo's passport. I mean, it's the whole date. Neo Anderson's passport expires on September 11th, 2001. That's in the Matrix. That's in the first Matrix. His passport, it's only shown briefly in the film. It's in the scene where Smith is interrogating Anderson, and he's, you know, trying to talk him out of being the cyber terrorist. And it has two meanings. It's Neo's birth date, which is September 13th, 1971, which is dualistic. That's the date of the Attica prison riot, where the Rockefellers put down the prison riot. So you have the birth of the chosen one on that date, who is going to liberate mankind from the prison-like, you know, confines that he finds him in. Yet in reality, it was the suppression of a prison riot. So you have that whole dualistic thing going on with the birth date of Neo or Anderson. But then you have his expiration date of the passport, which is, and it's the whole date. It's September 11th, 2001. You know, go figure. I mean, and, you know, when did The Matrix come out? In 1999. So, I mean, you're close to that date. So, I mean, you know, I can't explain it. I don't know where the hell it comes from. But, you know, there it is. I mean, and it's there. I mean, I've checked it. You know, it's definitely there. It's pretty crazy. Wasn't there something else on one of the cartoon TV shows? Like, I seem to think of it as like Family Guy or The Simpsons, where prior to that, there was a skit about something flying into the two towers. Do you remember that, Darren? I know there was something with there's a whole thing on this. I don't delve into. I mean, I'm a little aware of it. Some of it I can't buy into. I mean, some of it's too far removed. I know there's one on The Simpsons where I think it was $9 was the price, and it was in front of the World Trade Centers. It looked like 9/11. Then there's another one. There's a couple of them. I know I'm aware of the Simpson one. I think there's one in the Terminator, in the second Terminator movie. Beware of 9/11. I think it said somewhere. But I know there's a lot of them out there. But some of them are very far removed, and you know, anything from the 1980s or early 90s, you know, to me would have to be almost a coincidence. But the Matrix one, that's a little hard to explain. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. So it is interesting to me that these sets of movies that you talk about and the ones that are full of the symbolism they really did well. Like, they're really resonating with humanity. Obviously, you know, when you talk about Matrix, Star Wars, the Lord of the Rings, and all that, like those are some of the biggest movies we've ever seen. So it really makes me think that there's something deep within us that really resonates with this type of mythology. Oh, I totally agree with you. I mean, my God, you know, I believe these filmmakers are very aware of the collective unconscious. I believe there are certain things that we are hooked on. I think they know this. And I think they're, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, let's just, you know, I mean, you know, we could talk about, you know, why they implant this symbolism in the movies. Well, let's just look at basically, I mean, they're printing money off this stuff. I mean, you know, the movie making industry is, you know, a multi-billion-dollar industry. So, you know, to think that they're not using this material to print money is very naive. I mean, they know the power of this material. They know that mankind resonates with it. But what also has to be borne in mind, and again, this ties into what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, was, you know, we have to remember also that these filmmakers, they're subject to this too. I mean, they're human beings also. So the point I'm trying to make is they, you know, and I talk about this in the film in the book is, you know, these guys on some levels may be implanting this material and not even being aware of it because they're affected by the collective unconscious. That's something that also has to be borne in mind. And that's also a very important element on all this. And like I said, you know, I'm not gonna go over it, you know, spend 2 hours talking about it, but just briefly, you know, I do document in the book where I know there was a filmmaker who was not familiar with this this arcana, this esoteric symbolism, yet you'll find it in his film. And to me, that's just a prime example of a filmmaker themselves being influenced by the collective unconscious. Wow.
So did you, getting personal for a bit here, during your journey of making this book, did you experience anything, any synchronicities yourself, or any? I mean, we have guest after guest that seem to have had some sort of strange or synchronistic moment that actually like solidified their path to their latest work, so to say.
Well, yes, I would say yes to that. It goes back to the Royal Arch of Enoch book. I kind of had always planned a book. When I began researching this material, I always had a book in mind. What happened was, in the mid 2000s, I created. I mean, this doesn't exist anymore. I created an old MySpace page, and of course, this was 2004, 2005, 2006. So bear in mind, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, none of this existed. Yeah. And I sort of started posting blogs, photo galleries of some of my research. To make a long story real short, a buddy of mine who was a Freemason saw it and said, hey, this is really great research. You should write a book about it. And that's like, a cartoon, the light bulb went off over my head. And that's when I really started concentrating on it. So I had that sort of synchronistic event happen. And I do think that was very important. And then again, it was the same sort of thing when I was writing the Royal Arch of Enoch book. And it's the same time frame, 2004, 2005, 2006. This was when the Da Vinci Code was sort of popular. But then this movie came out called National Treasure, which to me personally I thought was better than Da Vinci Code. But what was really striking with me was this was probably really the National Treasure movie was really the first movie that really started to kind of like the light bulb went off for me with the movie Symbolism. Because when I was watching National Treasure, I realized I was watching a Masonic ritual, that this was the Royal Arch of Enoch ceremonial on the big screen, the recovery of the secret treasure vault, the subterranean treasure vault that had all the Masonic treasure in it, which is basically the Royal Arch of Enoch ceremonial. So, I thought, okay, here it is. And, again, you get into the second movie with the number 13 turning up again. This ties into Freemasonry, and I talk about this in Royal Arch. So again, it was like this like ball started to roll where, I was beginning to see this stuff in movies, and I was seeing it on a level that was satisfying, that I knew it wasn't a coincidence. And then when I was writing Royal Arch, like I said, I wrapped up the last chapter with the Masonic symbolism in movies. But then as I was doing that, this other stuff was coming to light with like Back to the Future and Black Swan, which had just come out at the time. So yeah, it was just like, I got done, it was very synchronistic because I got done writing Royal Arch. The final chapter was the movie stuff, and I continued right off as soon as right after Royal Arch came out. This would have been August of 2012, I literally started writing Cinema Symbolism, immediately, just continuing on that final chapter with, going forward with The Exorcist and the solar symbolisms and, what we've been talking about with the Christ, the Savior archetype. And then Cinema Symbolism was born. And again, again, we talk about synchronicity. It's like the light bulb with the cartoon character. I was writing Cinema Symbolism. This is true. This is how this plays out. I was writing Cinema Symbolism, and I had done, I can't remember the order, but I had done the Matrix chapter, then I had done the Star Wars chapter, which was 6 films. I did all 6 of them. And then I did the Lord of the Rings chapter, which was 3 of them. My original plan at that point was to do the Harry Potter movies, which is 8 of them. And I remember sitting there literally at my computer screen thinking, there is no way if they're just doing this. This book, I'll be writing this book for another year. So then I thought, okay, let's continue on with Cinema Symbolism. Let's go into the Goddess chapter and some of the comedies. And what I'll do is I'll excise out the Harry Potter stuff, and I'll do Cinema Symbolism too, which is what I'm writing right now, which I'm going to do the Harry Potter, like I said, the C.S. Lewis material, the Narnia Chronicles, I'm doing the Alan Moore material, with V for Vendetta, From Hell, Watchmen. I'm tackling some more new horror stuff with Suspiria and The Shining. I'm doing the Robin Hood movie with Errol Flynn. The Robin Hood legend is very Jungian, very Tarot embodiment, a lot of ancient mythology, the Green Man, the Green Man of the Woods, things like that. So yeah, this is something I'm continuing on with, and it seems like you get done one writing book and another, something else comes up. And speak of the, we talk about cinema symbolism too. I'm actually writing another book on Freemasonry. I'm also just started writing my first work of fiction. So, without the Royal Arch and these movie symbolisms, I got 3 more books I'm planning. And it was definitely like it was meant to be almost, I suppose.
Yeah, that's great.
What about Prometheus? That seems like a no-brainer.
I have not seen it. I have not seen Prometheus, so I occasionally get asked about movies that I have not seen, but I know that is a Ridley Scott film, and it would not surprise me to find material in that, because I know he did Alien, and the Alien movies, again, here we go again with the Christ figure, Ellen Ripley. This time it's the female who is dead and resurrected, is the savior figure. You have a lot of esoterica going on in the Alien movie with the name of the ship, the Nostromo. I talk about what that means. Take a look at, I do a whole interpretation of Alien. That's Ridley Scott. So if I've not seen Prometheus, but I know that's Ridley Scott, so it would come as no surprise to me that there isn't some sort of veiled arcana going on in that one as well.
What about Star Trek?
Star Trek is again, you have a lot of archetypes in that. You have really the Hermes Trismegistus archetype, which is Mr. Spock. This is something I'm talking about in cinema symbolism too, a little bit on the Star Trek. I get into the whole symbolism of the hand gesture, the Vulcan hand gesture, which is the Hebrew letter Shin. That has a lot of Kabbalistic meaning to it. That's something I'm taking on in cinema symbolism too. So yeah, you'll find this stuff in the small screen as well. In cinema symbolism, I get into some of the material with the X-Files, some of the veiled art, some of the stuff going on in the background with that show. So yeah, it's not just, it's not just limited to movies, of course. You'll find, the work of David Lynch with Twin Peaks. That's something also I'm taking on in cinema symbolism too. So yeah, you'll find this in
Netflix again.
Yeah, you'll find this in TV shows as well.
Wow, it's kind of overwhelming. It seems to be just everywhere.
Well, it's definitely, like I said, you'll find these themes repeating themselves. But like I said, I've looked at a lot of movies where it's not there either. So, you take it, and some movies have it, some don't, and you have to always pay attention to the context of what it's being presented in. That's key to this as well.
Speaking of always pay attention, is it like ruined movies for you now? Like, can you just hang back and watch a movie, or are you always like on the prowl for some symbology and?
Oh no,
notepad out.
Oh no, I could sit back and watch a movie and just enjoy it for what it is, and have it on in the background, or just sit there with a bowl of popcorn, or go watching the movie and enjoy it. No, usually when I'm gonna, if I feel like there's something going on, like I said, I have to usually sit there and, like I said, with a notepad and remote control, and have to go backwards and forwards, and see something may happen at the end that is different at the beginning. I've encountered this from time to time. So when I'm analyzing the movie, yeah, I've really got to pay attention to it, and you definitely have to watch it more than once. And but no, I could definitely sit back and just enjoy a movie, and take the symbolic eyeglasses off, as it were.
So, is there anything else that before we start wrapping her up that you want to get across to our listening audience?
Well, let me just say thanks, guys, for having me on Grimerica. I thought it was a great show. If I could just get my website out, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to link to all your stuff too, and highly recommend. I do like the depth. I got a chance to look at a little bit of your book there, and I do like how in depth you get with it all. It's very good. And the first portion of your book, where you kind of build that groundwork of the symbolism, and that's really it's fascinating, and it's in depth. I learned a lot just from that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, what I tried to do was give a detailed introduction. What's important for me when I write these books is I want to make sure that if a person has no understanding of this material and is coming to it for the first time, I have to lay the groundwork. I have to explain, what some of this material is.
Yeah.
And I did this in Royal Arch of Enoch. I guess the point I'm trying to make is I wanted to make the book where if you were familiar with it, you knew what you were going to be reading. But if you had no clue about it, I had to give you a groundwork, a framework for you to look at. So I always try to start the books off by giving a, kind of detailed introduction. And I did this with Royal Arch of Enoch too. So I'm glad you liked it at any rate. And like I said, that's my motive for doing that. But yeah, I just want to say thanks, guys, for having me on, and thanks for linking up everything. If you like this podcast, if you like this interview, please go to my website. It's the easiest way to find more about me and to buy my books. My website is www.robertwsullivaniv.com. My name is the fourth, Robert W. Sullivan the fourth, so it's just Robert W. Sullivan with two L's, IV. That's the letter I, the letter V.com. RobertWSullivaniv.com. From there, there's links there to buy the books. If you want the paperback signed, I've been getting some requests for those. Those are sold exclusively through my publisher. That's linked up. It's in the ebook, it's in the Kindle, it's in the Nook, the Apple iBookstore. Actually, right now we are having a sale on the ebooks. They have been reduced to $5.99. So you're going to want to pick that up. That's a gift. The Royal, that's for both books. That's a piece. The Royal Arch of Enoch is nearly 700 pages, and Symbolism is nearly 500. So you can get a 500-page book for $5.99 or a 700-page book for $5.99. So that's on discount till after Christmas. We're doing that for the holidays. Again, to my website, there's links there to my social media, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, like pages, all that. Everything's there. More about me. You can listen to other radio shows I've done, watch some videos I've produced. Again, RobertWSullivaniv.com. Links to buy the book. Links to read reviews about the book. Watch YouTube videos. It's all right there. Check it out. And thank you guys for having me on so much. I thought it was a great show. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm just glad you like what you saw, and it's always my pleasure to come on with you guys, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Robert. Good luck with your Cinema Symbolism 2.
Yeah, when I'm back on for Cinema Symbolism 2, you have to watch Prometheus first.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely see if I can't squeeze that in and tell you what I think of it. No doubt about it.
Great. Thanks a lot, Robert.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Little girl, you sure can cook. You come along, girl, what did I do? I lost my heart and my head went too.
And welcome back to the Grimerica Show. That was our chat with Robert Sullivan the fourth.
Sully Esquire. That was a fun one. I like talking about movies. I like watching movies.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm got deja vu here because you just deleted the last fucking outro we did about this.
We're going to talk about that?
I had a good spiel about the monomyth and all that stuff, right?
What about the monomyth?
Well, how it's I think humans gravitate towards this reluctant hero thing, right? Like the Neo in Matrix or Luke Skywalker in Star Wars or Frodo Baggins in The Lord of the Rings, right? Who doesn't want to be the reluctant hero? Right? I think there's an inherent human desire and attraction for those stories. That's why those movies are so big, right?
I don't know. I prefer the anti-hero.
Really?
You mean the fucking John McClanes?
Well, yeah. So, and then you had a point to make about the monomyth. Is that the guy that? What is that? The normal guy that changes history thing or something? It's not about the great man theory. Yeah. I don't know if I buy that.
That history needs great men to advance it. It's not a collective thing. Like some people might like to believe. It's just great people lead us forward.
A few great guys doing like really great things that keep moving us forward.
I said great people. You said great guys.
Yeah, well, great women and guys, I meant.
Okay. Thanks for
clarifying.
Yeah. Graham at Grimerica.com. .ca works too.
It's a good thing when you
sometimes I think it's weird that our email's .com and our site's .ca.
Yeah. Well, you should change that then. You have the power. Or is it too late now?
The site's .com and .ca. And so is the email, really. .ca just forwards .com.
Anyways, we want to thank Robert Sullivan before we get too off track here for coming on, talking about all the symbolism. He's got another book coming out already. That's going to be good. It's pretty cool stuff. So that's what I asked you too. Do you think this is intentional or all this embedded symbolism in movies, or is it just part of our pop culture?
50-50.
Really?
Yeah. That reminds me, I did want to talk about something else too. I was going to save it till next week because Gitmo's coming on the show next week. But I know the date is, it's only like these Kickstarter campaigns, you always only get so long. So I think it's only got like 25 days left or something like that. So I figured better just get it out this week. Basically, it is a Kickstarter. Basically, it is a Kickstarter for recycling old soda bottles, 2 liters, 1 liters, things like that, into high-flying rockets without rocket fuel. So
like model rockets or like real rockets?
Yes, well, sort of like fucking toy rockets, model rockets, except out of 2 liters with some PVC pipe and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. There's a fucking YouTube video of it in action on the page there.
What's it called?
Sodajet.
Sodajet. I'll link to that in the show notes.
Fuck yeah. That's our buddy Gitmo Yoho, a friend of everybody Gitmo Yoho's.
All right.
Kickstarter. So yeah, looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want one.
Yeah, we want to say thanks to Gitmo too for supporting our show.
Yeah, he's a big supporter of ours. Supports our value for value motto, and we hope you do too, of course. As always, Spam Graham. Follow us on Twitter at Grimerica. Like the Facebook page.
There's a honey doobie doobie doo list on the show notes with all the links.
What's that? Review the show.
Yeah, it's got all the links and stuff.
View the show where you can. Support the show. You can now donate to the show. Like we said in the intro, you can donate through castbacker.com/Grimerica. Listen live, Grimerica.com/backstage. All that fun stuff. As usual, you'll find the links in the show notes to everything we talked about and all the music you heard. Anything else? Did we miss anything?
No, that's about it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.